Good afternoon, everyone. All the guests and dignitaries are requested to kindly take their respective seats as we are going to start our session shortly. You are requested to kindly keep your mobile phones in switch off or silent mode. We also request you all to maintain social distance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host Preeti Verma, Senior Manager HR from BEML Limited, and I warmly welcome you all to the seminar in Hall number 1 of Convention Center. The theme of today's session is Tamil Nadu, the emerging hub for aerospace and defense industries. We are honored this afternoon by the gracious presence of a galaxy of speakers from distinguished areas. I take this opportunity to invite the speakers on dais, please. Dr. Daves Giaselvan, President, Crown Group. Lieutenant General A.V. Subramaniam, Advisor, Lakshmi Machine Works Limited. Dr. Sarguna Raj Christopher, Professor, IIT Madras. Mr. Vikram Reddy, Executive General Manager, GE Aviation. Mr. Lakshmesh B.H., Head Missiles and Aerospace Business, L&T Defense. Mr. N.P. Sridhar, CEO and Executive Director, Titan Engineering and Automation Limited. He will be joining through virtual mode shortly. Mr. B. Ilangovan, Senior General Manager, TIDCO. Ladies and gentlemen, a brief description about the session. The announcement of the Tamil Nadu Defense Industrial Corridor by the Government of India and its launch was in January 2019 has been done with a view to transform Tamil Nadu into a hub for aerospace and defense manufacturing. The state has the largest number of factories in the country and has been the market leader in automotive, electronic, and IT industry. The government of Tamil Nadu, along with its industry partners, are working together to achieve an investment of rupees 1 lakh crore in the next 10 years. Support in terms of favorable policies, infrastructure, ease of doing business, single window clearance, promotion of R&D, and creation of common manufacturing from Government of Tamil Nadu is high on the agenda to lower the barriers of MSMEs to enter the sector and create an ecosystem to replicate the success attained in the automotive and electronic sectors. TIDCO and CII Tamil Nadu intend to showcase the strength of Tamil Nadu in the sector and present a roadmap for the development of the Tamil Nadu Defense Industrial Corridor. Now, may I request Dr. Dave Giaselvan to address context setting, please. Dr. Dave Giaselvan.
very good afternoon to all of you. We are here today to briefly look at the capabilities of Tamil Nadu and the advantages that Tamil Nadu presents. Over the years, I think all of you are familiar with the synchronous working relationship between the various sectors of Tamil Nadu in the industrial side. The manufacturing industry in Tamil Nadu, as you are aware, is actually an integral part of the national ecosystem of engineering. We do have many MSMEs, we do have mid, and we have large companies which are operating together as a very organized structure for a very long time. As you are all aware, Tamil Nadu is one of those states which has been on the leadership for industrial development, for manufacturing, and for also technology support. Throughout the country, we have had companies which have grown out of Tamil Nadu, which have actually gone on to become market leaders in several sectors. We now see the current initiatives that is being taken by the government of Tamil Nadu to one or two of the organizations which are spearheading that, which is TIDCO, as you are aware. The relationship that TIDCO fosters among the manufacturing companies in Tamil Nadu has actually paved the way for many companies to come into Tamil Nadu to look at it as a destination which is preferred. Not just the point of view of the location, it's the logistic support and the ecosystem. It is also a place where we have an enormous amount of skills that are available. I think as we are all aware, traditionally Tamil Nadu has been one of those states where education has been given a lot of importance, and that has resulted in the level of skills that have been developed in this state. When we look at specific sectors like automotive and general engineering sectors, we are aware that the ability of a new organization to come and set up shop there, depending on the feeder system, the ecosystem in terms of MSMEs, have been the main driver. And if you look at the MSMEs per se, a predominant volume in that area is actually homegrown, entrepreneurial driven programs which are actually supporting the larger industries. I'm sure that we have eminent speakers here who would actually get into the details of that. I would like to welcome all of you to listen to all of them, and let me open this session on their behalf and on your behalf. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next topic of the session is Tamil Nadu, a global aerospace and defense hub powered by private and public partnership. May I request Mr. B. Ilangovan, Senior General Manager, TIDCO, to address the gathering, please. Mr. B. Ilangovan.
Can we run through the presentation, please? Good afternoon. Assistant Chairman Dr. Devi Jayseelan, the President of Crown Group, Dr. Christopher was the former Secretary to Government of India Defense Research. General Subramaniam is a veteran who is with Lakshmi Mason Works Department, Lakshmi Mason Works Company. Mr. Lakshmi is who is heading the L&T Defense. And Mr. Vikram Reddy delegates Mr. Mahajan, IAS, Additional Commissioner, MSME Department of Government of Tamil Nadu. Delegates, honored of the dais, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I thank Ministry of Defense and the CII for having given these opportunities for showcasing Tamil Nadu in the front of aerospace and defense manufacturing capabilities. I just, can you just show the slides? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, please. I'll just take less than 10 minutes only to just share the information about and the capabilities of Tamil Nadu in the aerospace defense manufacturing. Please. Yeah, I'll just run the presentation. My flow of discussion will be our goal, where we stand now, our strength, and the policy support from the government, and our approach, the roadmap. We have devised a systematic approach on the roadmap how to achieve our goals. Please, next. Okay. Before just going through the presentation, I would like to slightly divert your attention with one slide to just go back to give the genesis and genetics of the aerospace and defense manufacturing in India, in Tamil Nadu. See, just if you see, the left side one, we have one picture that shows it's the engineering marvel, which is an engineering marvel. It's a temple built in the seashore some nearly 2,000 years back by the Indian engineers, which has about 12 pillars joining as a dot. We can understand the master planning, the meticulousness of the planning, design, and the construction capabilities, the logistics, the transport. You name anything which is required for manufacturing, that is all there in that. It's not that one single building. There are numerous structures, civil structures we have across in India. This is one of that. And there is one more small picture which shows 100 years back, Chennai was the city which started with aviation across the Asia. So, in 1910, there was an attempt by Chennai-based engineers. Of course, there were foreigners also involved. They attempted to make a flying machine. Of course, they met with some hurdles, but that formed the base. With these few words, I would like to just move on to the next. See, defense manufacturing is not new to Tamil Nadu. Thousands of years back, even our kingdom, our kings, they invaded the Southeast Asian countries with the help of their strong naval fleets and land systems capabilities. So the manufacturing of the defense systems were there imbibed in the mindset of the Tamil Nadu engineers. So with this small background, I would like to just give you the simple snapshot and the goal what we want to achieve in next 10 years. By 2030, with the available capabilities, with our own existing ecosystem, prevailing capabilities, where we want to stand by 2030, that's what we have given in this small slide. See, we want to create more than 1,000 aerospace and defense companies. Presently, as of now, we have just around 300 plus only, which was about 120 some 3-4 years back. Now it has gone to 300. And these numbers, we want to increase to minimum 1,000 numbers, and which would create minimum 100,000 employments. The land requirement with 10 lakhs indirect employment, and 10,000 acres of developed land for the aerospace manufacturing we want to create, and most of that is already we have planned the locations, etc. We are in the process of acquiring completion of the acquisition, and we also have a systematic plan of investing more than 5,000 crore from the public funds in creating the infrastructure and supporting the aerospace platforms and defense platforms manufacturing in our state in next 10 years. So with this the goal, each node has its own capability. We have 5 nodes in the defense corridor in Tamil Nadu. Each node has its capabilities. We have identified their strengths, and we also identified the gaps where we need to infill in terms of physical support as well as physical and soft supports to be provided to skill up and increase the capabilities of such nodes. We see Chennai, we would like to make that Chennai as a very larger global OEMs, both in land systems and ships, to be present there in Chennai. As of now, we have larger PSUs. They are making tanks, the MBT tanks are being made from Chennai only. And one more information I would like to share with you. Out of the OFB's output, 28% comes from Chennai plants alone. So we have about AVADI, which is called Armored Vehicles Depot of India and Ammunition Depot of India. There's a short form of AVADI, has about 20,000 plus acres of land developed, and that houses more than 7 larger PSUs and larger government, central government establishments. So that has about more than 700 to 800 supplier base. So the ecosystem is already existing, and we also want to create Chennai as another MRO hub for aircraft repairing, and UAV designing is also another area we are looking at. And if you coming to Hosur, we want to develop that as defense electronics and precision manufacturing and engine components manufacturing hub. Trichy is known for larger fabrication, being the Bell being present there. We want to leverage the presence, and there are so many engineering companies. They are very good at fabrication. We have also a common facility centers called Trichy Engineering and Technology Center. So with using that as a leveraging capability, we would like to build up a very large missiles structures manufacturing and so on in the Trichy node. Coming to Coimbatore, it is already known for precision engineering. We would like to set up, we are expecting a larger, probably the fighter jet manufacturing can happen in Coimbatore zone. Such capabilities are already prevailing, and whatever is additional requirement or the capability gap, we would like to, from TIDCO and state government, with the help of the central government and private industries, we would like to create such infrastructure so that the larger fighter jet aircraft manufacturing can happen there. So like that, each Salem is known for technical textiles, parachutes can be manufactured there, and so like so on. If you go to down south, the Tuticorin and Nanguneri can be used, that region can be used for creating the rockets manufacturing kind of setup there. So with these, we have identified those areas where we can create what kind of larger platform manufacturing support, and with this goal, we are going to move on to the next. So we are keeping this as goal, we are working towards achieving these goals. Coming to where we stand, as we explained, we have 7 major DPSUs and YFBs in Tamil Nadu in the defense corridor, with at least 5 major private JVs, 20 plus tier 1 and tier 2 companies, and 300 plus MSMEs in a tier 3 and tier 4 category. And in terms of investments, when this defense corridor was launched, there was a commitment from about 10 companies to the tune of 3,123 crores. Out of that, more than 1,000 crores has already been invested. Apart from that, after the announcement, there has been many investments coming in, and we have signed MOUs with many industries to the tune of 4,860 crores. These investments are happening and in various stages of implementation. More than 20 companies we have signed MOUs with them, and they are also, making their investments in this corridor. And nearly 4,600 crores investments are in the discussion stage. We are very sure it will be happening. We will be clinching the deal in a very short period. So put together, more than 10,000 crore investments is happening in defense corridor, wherein defense ministry has set in 10,000 crore investments by 2023. We are sure by 2023 we will be touching not less than 20,000 crore investments in this defense corridor. Well, and with a total, I mean, we are also sure that there will be at least couple of larger OEMs will be positioned in this defense corridor. Sorry. The reason why we are very confident of building up this ecosystem is Tamil Nadu, you all know, it's known for its industrialized ecosystem. It has a well developed distributed and these clusters across the state. Any cluster, if you look at, it can be reached within 2 to 3 hours from one cluster to another cluster. And it is all nurtured and well defined and disciplined engineering industries are operating across Tamil Nadu. And the auto clusters, there is no mention about that, there is no need to mention about that. The huge automobile manufacturing companies, nearly 1,400 companies are operating from Tamil Nadu, and their output is almost 30% of Indian automobile output is coming from Tamil Nadu. And exports, nearly 40% of the exports is happening from Tamil Nadu, from the automobile sector. This is the base which is acting as the platform for creating the defense manufacturing. So that's why we are very confident that this Tamil Nadu defense corridor will definitely reach to will achieve its goal. And this is our current capabilities. Each company in the nodes has its own capability. We have just made an assessment using our consultant company KPMG. The assessment says that across the platforms, any subsystems or components can be sourced from Tamil Nadu. These are the list we have given. I can share with you the presentation so that you can have a look at that. And there are globally and across India also several companies are sourcing, they're treating Tamil Nadu defense corridor as their sourcing base. And the sourcing level and their the size is also increasing year by year. We are seeing that. We are also facilitating them. So we are organizing meetings between the buyers and the suppliers. So that's why we are we know that there is a growing trend in the supply base. Sorry. And the government, in terms of government support, sensing the need for the specific supports required for the industries, the land, be it the land or common infrastructure facilities or policy support, and building the brand Tamil Nadu, events, thank you, madam, and global reach. In all these areas, the government has made specific, devised specific programs, and we are working on providing such supports to the industries. For example, the land, we have created a very large land bank across all the nodes, not less than 10,000 acres. We have identified at least 5,000 acres are already been acquired, and another 5,000 acres of land are under acquisition. So anywhere any industry wants land, it can be allocated without any encumbrance. And coming to the common infrastructure, we plan to create common testing facilities as well as common facility centers in each of the nodes, so that can provide the fillip to the MSME industries. That's the support we want to provide. And we have a specific aerospace and defense policy which provides a lot of incentives and concessions framed up. And brand building also, so like this, everywhere the government institutions are attending in seminars and creating our own brand. And the events, global reach, we are also taking the industry, the aerospace and defense and its aspirants to the various countries, so that they get to know the aerospace industry across the manufacturing requirement and possibilities across the world. To be specific on to have a specific approach, in each of the nodes, we are creating aerospace and defense parks. One such aerospace park has already been developed in Chennai node in Sri Perumbudur in an area of 250 acres, which is expandable up to 500 acres. Within that, we are expecting at least 50 aerospace and defense companies positioned, it's co-located. Out of that, now we have nearly 20 companies, we have allocated land to them. Almost 60-70% of the land has already been allocated. And we are also expecting some more companies to take up their space in the aerospace park. Like this, we are also creating the defense aerospace parks in each and every node. Within that aerospace park in Sri Perumbudur, we are also setting up an aero hub, otherwise we call it Advanced Computing Design Engineering Center. It is 100,000, 1 lakh square feet, sorry, 1 million square feet building it is coming up. It is a multi-floor facility wherein engineering talents are being attracted there. We want to provide a common setup, common support like hardwares and softwares in designing, engineering design, and especially aerospace designing, so that engineering design companies can come up and operate from there. So that is, this project is under construction. We have earmarked about 250 crores in less than a year's time. Around in a year's time, it will be operational. So we are also planning to set up one multi-floor manufacturing complex in this same facility, so that people can just come and set up their manufacturing facility like a plug-and-play facility. And we are also looking at creating MRO base in our state. We have identified about 150 acres land adjoining our airport. In phased manner, we want to develop, and we are in the process of creating. We have signed an agreement with MOU with a company who can acquire the land and develop that as a MRO complex. Our strength is to achieve all these things. We should have best. Our strength is within Tamil Nadu. The talent is one of the major strength we always advocate. The human resources we have is phenomenal. If you say there is a statistics available, almost 30% of the people employed from India abroad in the aerospace and defense industry, they are from Tamil Nadu. Somehow they have graduated from one of the universities or institutions from Tamil Nadu. Every year, 5,000 plus engineers are getting graduated from 60 plus universities, where aerospace is an exclusive subject. Then coming to the processes, the Tamil Nadu-based industries are R&D tuned, R&D intense industries. They are always looking at challenges in new technologies. And the technologies and infrastructure, we have excellent infrastructure across the state. We don't have to again tell each and everything. Within Tamil Nadu, the road networks are excellent, be it rail network or air network. Everything is on par with international standard. Within Tamil Nadu, we can reach by road from one corner to another corner within 10 hours. That's 10 hours is the maximum, which is one of the very unique facility in Tamil Nadu in terms of the connectivity. So our differentiator is all along Tamil Nadu industries. Basically, they are quality consciousness, and somehow it has been nurtured unwittingly or wittingly. The quality consciousness is instilled in their minds of the industries. The government support ecosystem, funded ecosystem. As I explained earlier, we want to create the common setup, infrastructure, etc. And we have a realistic goals. What we the realistic policies, what we do, only what we say. That's the kind of policy we have. We don't just provide hi-fi statements, etc. That's one of the other uniqueness of the Tamil Nadu government institutions. We have ambitious target set, and to achieve that, we have programmed approach, and we have devised the systematic plans. As we already mentioned, we have a well-defined ecosystem and diversified aerospace and defense clusters across our state. Each cluster can be reached by all means of connectivity in a very short, so that it's really as a single, we can call it as a single node instead of 5 nodes. As regards the policy support, we have a specific aerospace industry policy where anchor unit subsidy also we are providing, and subsidy for skill development, and subsidy for certification. We are reimbursing the cost of certification process, because most of the MSME industries, the challenges for them is to get the certification. They have to spend a lot of money, as well as the time also they have to spend. And there is a land subsidy for land allotment. 20% of the land cost is been subsidized for aerospace defense industries. This was the first time government gave the land subsidy to the aerospace and defense industries. And we have a host of other subsidies. It can be taken from our website also. Coming to the MSME industries, we have a separate department called MTIP, MSME Trade and Investment Promotion Organization. They are administering various subsidy to the MSME sectors. Tamil Nadu has a very strong base for MSMEs, for nearly 5 million MSMEs, providing nearly 10 million employment. And 50% of their state exporters are coming from the MSME sector. And MSME has a very strong base in Tamil Nadu. That is one of the strengths why the larger defense companies are looking at Tamil Nadu. And this are some of the incentives given to the MSME sectors. We can get all these details from the websites of the respective departments. Our strategic approach is, as we mentioned, in every nodes we want to create the common infrastructure facilities, the common testing facility, and common facility centers and skill development facilities in every nodes, mainly to support aerospace and defense industries. And center of excellences in all nodes, that also we are talking to major global companies to set up the center of excellences in aerospace and defense. For example, we are talking to the big company for setting up aero engine manufacturing center of excellence. Like that, we want to set up the COEs, particularly with a specific the goal. And as I mentioned, what we mean by systematic approach is the ecosystem. We have evaluated that the present ecosystem has automobile manufacturing, very strong automobile manufacturing. We want to upgrade them to the aerospace. That's our short-term goal. So in this short-term goal only, we have achieved many of the number of industries from 100 plus to increase to 300 plus. Most of the companies were already into the automobile manufacturing. So we specifically, they also had their own aspirations. We also inspired them, from the government side also inspired them to move on to the aerospace and defense. So that is our short-term goal. So from make them get into the aerospace industry, the automobile industries get into the aerospace industry. Then after getting into the aerospace, we want to graduate them to from components manufacturing to the subsystems manufacturing. That is our medium goal. And the long-term objective is all these companies should be part of the larger ecosystem, end-to-end ecosystem, where the platforms can be manufactured in at least in 10 years. And that is our the goal. Towards this goal only we are approaching. We have also devised policies and plans in this based on this approach. So, and the UAV market is again very. So you know that it's tremendous opportunities for UAV manufacturing in India. UAV testing has such a great potential. So only government institutions can create such a testing infrastructure. So we have identified the locations and the components, what are the things to be provided for UAV testing. So in Ulundurpet, it's almost located in center of the Tamil Nadu. We have an airstrip, unused airstrips. We are going to develop that airstrip as a larger UAV testing hub. So we are sure that in a year's time we'll be able to make that Ulundurpet airstrip subject to the permission from the Government of India. We'll be making that as a very big UAV hub. So with that, the UAV manufacturing will also be a major business opportunity from Tamil Nadu. So with these few words, I would like to sum up my the information and inputs. We have created a body called ADOT, Aerospace Industry Development Association of Tamil Nadu. Many of the industries are the members of that body. They are also creating and supporting us in creating the policies and implementing the plans, and they are also lobbying with both government institutions as well as the industry side. They are bringing this, acting like a bridge between the government and the industries. So these are the members of the some of the major companies, those who have facilities in our trade, and they are also members of the ADOT. So with these approach, we are sure that the aerospace and defense manufacturing will mature at a reasonable level in a very short period. And we also, with companies like, larger companies like L&T Defense and LMW, and people like Dr. Christopher, and we are sure that Tamil Nadu Defense Corridor will achieve its long-term goal. We request all of support us in every of our actions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next topic of the session is Skilling for Aerospace and Defense Sector, the foundation of TNDIC. May I request Lieutenant General A.V. Subramaniam, Advisor to Lakshmi Machine Works Limited, to address the gathering, please. Lieutenant General A.V. Subramaniam.
It is indeed a pleasure always to be speaking from the Tamil Nadu platform, and especially a topic which is very dear and near to my heart. Kalvi Siranda Tamil Nadu, Pugal Kamban Piranda Tamil Nadu, Palvidamana Sathirangal, Manam Parangum Visum Tamil Nadu. I am a child of the soil. I have grown in the villages of Tamil Nadu, learnt in the government schools of Tamil Nadu, and studied in colleges for Tamil Nadu, and subsequently served in the military forces, now back here again to see the industrial ecosystem of Tamil Nadu building. When we want to build industry, the first and foremost that is required is the human resources necessary to build this. And those human resources come from our educational foundation that we have. Over the years, Tamil Nadu has laid considerable amount of emphasis on this. Now that we have chosen to ride the wave of defense and aerospace, which calls for some of the cutting-edge technologies to be employed, we need to reinvent ourselves. We have been very good at this reinventing. When this electronic wave took over, we really pioneered it. And when the automobile manufacturing got in, we assimilated it. Now when the aerospace and defense is coming, we must definitely take it forward. But for that to happen, the human resources are the most important ones. There was a report that we submitted. I was a member of that committee to the Ministry of Defense in 2015, over which the Defense Procurement Procedure 2016 was promulgated. Founded on that is the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. In all those things, the foundational thing that we said is that we need to have this upgraded ladder of competency that we must build in our industry. While we were in the ladder level somewhere around 2 or so, for us to get to the 4th and the highest level, unless we have the design and the manufacturing capability, it will not work. This report is available on the net as the expert committee report in the Ministry of Defense website. Kindly go through that. This one elaborates as to what is this ladder model and how we are going to progressively going to be achieving this. I will take 1 or 2 examples to just illustrate. While the aerospace hub may be centered around Karnataka and particularly Bangalore, you will find the manufacturing of that is actually spanning the complete country. While we may say it is spanning the whole country, we will see predominantly the south-based industries are contributing significantly towards this. LCA, if you try to take that as an example, the number that you are seeing on this map would actually tell as to what a kind of a contribution which south-based companies are making. Time and again, I have heard this being told to me, saying that if it is aerospace, come south. There is very little that you can do in north, you have to do it in south. Because the talent is here, because the attitude is here, because of the quality consciousness is here, because of that entrepreneurial skill is here, because of this, if it is aerospace, do it here in south. And in the south of the south is Tamil Nadu, and most aptly placed of this. You take, I had the advantage of speaking after Mr. Ilangovan. He spoke eloquently about the tank factory, the heavy vehicle factory in Chennai. More than about 800 members in the supply chain, very keenly that they helped us to make the Vijayanta tanks earlier, and after that they helped us to make the T-55 tanks. Now they are helping us to make the T-90 tanks, along simultaneously with the main battle tank Arjun. The main battle tank Arjun was born in the soil. Central Vehicle Research and Development Establishment, which is a Chennai-based research and development organization, is the one which designed and productionized the main battle tank Arjun. We are believing that for the future, the main battle tank, next version of it, will actually lead the way. We have Dr. Christopher here in our presence, who belongs to the DRDO community. He has steered this whole process around. Much better to hear from his mouth rather than me speaking. But I am more interested in looking at the subsystems of this main battle tank and those capabilities which have been built over the years within Tamil Nadu for realizing all these kind of subsystems. While we realized the aerospace subsystems, some portion of it in the Tamil Nadu, while we realized the tank, the mobility subsystems, some abilities onto that, our ability to build manpower, has it matched this kind of a plan? Has it been a planned development of manpower, or it has just happened by itself? If you say that, planned development, I do not see that that kind of a planned development could take place. If you want to look at the defense manufacturing base, the pyramid can stay on top only on the skilling. The right skilling base is absolutely necessary for this pyramid to be built. And it is not possible for any industry to sustain only by supplying to defense unless you have it as a kind of a focused policy and you have diversified products which are there onto that. Many industries would like to have defense and civil both going together. If you're going to do that, the kind of a model that I have portrayed onto this is the one that is likely to be working. For that, right skilling is absolutely essential. And for that skilling, I do find Tamil Nadu is very well placed for this, provided we take on systematically on this. Considerable amount of design houses have happened here. IT, when the millennium bug hit us, we took on to IT very naturally. We saved this country from a kind of a debt trap and then earned a lot of money and then brought it back. And we got the country and the world out of that millennium kind of a problem. But with all those things, our leaning towards IT has become much more, and hence the softer portion of the design and the design tool related ones probably we find more and more institutions, but very less institutions which are focusing on hardcore manufacturing. This is kind of a problem that we are definitely suffering from. We have got good design institutions. People have contributed towards designing and generating intellectual property for foreign companies, and very little are they able to translate into production and manufacture within this soil. Is something that we need to identify and we need to reverse. Now time is absolutely right for the 2.0 kind of a push to take place, and this push is taking place from both that the government is actually pushing us towards it, and also with many of the government policies, foreign OEMs are definitely coming here and they are pushing in one direction. Both these pushes, if they work together, then it is possible for us to really crack this and then get this going. We have a requirement of nearly about 1 lakh manufacturing personnel, engineering and technician personnel to be available to us for us to realize this aerospace hub, that portion that we are trying to realize about, which Mr. Ilangovan spoke about. He said that nearly about 100,000 direct employment and nearly about 10 lakhs indirect employment is what we are thinking. And in the direct employment, we are definitely looking forward to people who are the engineering and also the diploma and the technicians variety who need to support us. We have got more than 70 plus engineering colleges which are offering aerospace engineering, but we need to have deployable engineers coming out of it. I am finding, as of now, increasingly this one is being realized. I happen to have an opportunity to interview for a kind of a position, nearly about 250 engineers across. While speaking, I could actually say that the many could not even list more than 3 or 4 OEMs who are there in aerospace, in aviation. Anybody you asked, people will just list Airbus and Boeing and they just would not know what to say next after that. Many are not aware as to what all the tools that are made use of for manufacturing. CATIA was something which was heard by them, but not fully understood, not fully related. That if CATIA is an extremely essential tool for you to work both in the design and in the manufacturing, is probably somehow we have not been able to translate that. So I would definitely like to have that increase our awareness across in the curriculum towards manufacturing, and ensure that we have the kind of a knowledge of tool making. Manufacturing in aerospace actually starts with your capability to make tools for manufacturing. The tools may be forming tools, it may be a kind of a assembly tools that you should be able to do the tool design. And then take on from that, your other knowledge which is on the electronic tools which are available for design, and then integrate it with our overall knowledge of manufacturing. This is how we will have to integrate everything together. And particularly on the technicians, I have never tired of telling this in every forum that I am there addressing, that amongst the technicians, we find in the 70 odd engineering colleges, engineers are coming out. Are aerospace technicians coming out? No. Not even one ITI, not even one polytechnic is offering any course of our aerospace technicians. This is something which is galling and appalling and disturbing. How can I build an aerospace ecosystem without that being there? If you look at that pyramid, that bottom portion of that which is actually contributing to the technicians is not there. If it is not there, then you'll find that you can't feed people, because the feeding people is taking place through the engineering colleges and other things, but from polytechnics and other places, the technicians who got to come, they are not there. If they are not there, you can't manufacture. It is no use trying to say that I've got engineers. Engineers can't manufacture. You've got to have technicians who got to be on the floor on this. This is something that I have been voicing my opinion for the past few years as of now. I will continue voicing it, and we are working towards it, not simply voicing it as of now. We are believing that working with the Tamil Nadu government, very soon that we will be able to bring in one polytechnic in the Tamil Nadu, that most probably it will be Coimbatore ITI, which will run a curriculum on aerospace technicians, and for which the training the trainer will probably commence within a short period of time. That will happen at our Chennai node, and subsequently Coimbatore will be the node which will be harnessing this and then taking this ahead. While this activity from the government is taking place and things are moving ahead, we have taken certain amount of initiatives. From LMW side, with Boeing we worked and then developed a curriculum for tool design, and then ran an industry-supported program for a period of 1 year, in which 32 candidates graduated from us right in the middle of COVID that they had to graduate. But good that they graduated from us, very good learning, and we have got now tool makers, aerospace tool makers who are available, 32 in number. A few of them got absorbed in LMW, but as I understand, all 32 are finding jobs outside. We would like to promote more and more such kind of an interaction for the future. The 2-year curriculum at the ITA level is something which I spoke is coming, and it will primarily be for the aerostructure fitter kind of a setup, and highly required. And because I'm seeing from LMW itself, most of the people I take and train them, and after that launch them for this. I don't have ready-made material who is available, whom I can definitely deploy onto this. These people will have to understand the standards, they will have to understand the procedures, the aerospace accountability, quality systems and all. I'm sure that they will come through. But for us to sustain for the future, necessary that we cannot leave it only to the government. We have got to have a learning system that has got to come about, which must be an industry-supported learning system. I went and studied as to how France actually became a giant in building aircrafts. And in that one, when I saw the cluster-based development that they have done in France, and also for the Airbus building, the kind of a foundational activity that they have taken, that really inspired me to look at as to how we can bring industry, government, and the learning community, everybody together on a kind of a model. The model that I'm presenting here is derived from that model after having seen that. In France, that Airbus industry gives sectionized models of its live aircraft to the training institutions, and the Airbus engineers mandatorily come and take classes for the technicians, and which I see very healthily working there. I went and saw this, and I was very impressed with the way in which things were happening. And in that, research institutions are there, industry-supported learning centers are there. All of them provide the basic continuous ecosystem to provide the manpower which is necessary to drive this industry. A similar kind of a model we need to realize within Tamil Nadu, and we will work towards it to realize this model. And private sector is emerging as a strong partner in this, and the private sector will have to do its part, because if you've got to become an OEM subsequently, but a tier 1 initially to start with, or even a tier 2 to begin with, necessary that we must do everything that is possible to support this portion. So that brings me to the summary of this, that we need to have a government and a private sector partnership which is focused onto this, and we need to have a aviation technician training that must be immediately brought to focus, and we must bring in an overall structure that is necessary to build all this. Then only it will become Kalvil Siranda Tamil Nadu. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Sarguna Raj Christopher, Professor IIT Madras, to share his thoughts on promotion of A&D manufacturing in Tamil Nadu through consortium approach. Dr. Christopher.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Promotion of aerospace and defense manufacturing in Tamil Nadu defense corridor through consortia approach. We did a small analysis by which that we could see that it is necessary to have a consortia approach to succeed in this area. Let us see. As we know that south part is known for quality engineers, probably aerospace can flourish, no doubt about it. Looking from the three states which are all in south, that we can see that Karnataka as well as Telangana as well as Tamil Nadu, all of them have got something additionally. If you look the first two states, that is Karnataka and Telangana, they have mainly occupied by DRDO as well as DPSUs. You have at least 10 DRDO laboratories, both in Karnataka as well as in Telangana, particularly one city, Bangalore and Hyderabad, in each state. Tamil Nadu has got only one DRDO lab, that too not in aerospace, but that is for, of course, tanks. In addition to that, DPSUs, if you look at it, certainly it is more in Karnataka. Of course, you have some DPSU at least working on the missiles in Telangana. We have virtually not much, virtually none of the aerospace side in Tamil Nadu. So what is the void? In case you have to create an ecosystem to work in the aerospace and defense, we must have a situation wherein a big industry, big establishment of the government or the DPSUs, a production unit should be there. Then only you can create an ecosystem wherein a large number of MSMEs and others can grow. So that is inadvertently missing. Let us try to see, in spite of that, is there any way that we can survive? So the point of bringing in at this point of time may take more time, because thinking of a policy by which that you have to bring in defense PSU or a defense R&D, particularly when we are talked about cutting down the PSUs or DPSUs at least, as well as in terms of DRDO labs, when you wanted to bring it down, asking for more number of labs may or may not happen. Today the trend is to have industry oriented, private industry oriented. We should encourage the private participation rather than the public participation. So this could be a long drawn policy, can happen in case we keep hammering at it, but it is a long draw. Another thing is, it is also going to be a very costlier affair. It's not going to be a small expenditure. Infrastructure need to be developed, a thought process has to come, and also we have to compete, or if already ADA is existing, or similar labs for, let's say, engine development like GTRE, or for aerospace industries or the aeronautics side, ADE is existing. So you have to think a competing lab has to be created, which needs a lot of thinking in the government and a policy decision. May or may not be possible. So if we are not able to go for a long term, why not we look at a short term? The sense the short term is, or a medium term is, we look at a big projects. In case we think in terms of aerospace project, I can quote some of them. If that project is not forever, it is going to be for a period, maybe 5 years, 10 years. But during that time, it can develop a lot of industries. Who knows, they may have a similar projects again and again in that area, Tamil Nadu corridor. And those industries themselves will be able to sustain that aerospace to continue forever. It is not necessarily a lab or a PSU is there, but a project, big project brought in at one point of time can probably bring in more and more projects as a chain reaction. So, what are the projects possible? Let's say Tejas production. You all know that the 83 numbers of Tejas, now the order has gone in, and so the production starts. Quite some time back, Air Force was pushing HAL to make the quantity increased in terms of production, so they have done enough of expansion. In addition to that, the present policy of HAL is to get it done, the sense make use of the industry as much as possible. Here we have L&T as well as Lakshmi Mission Tools. They are already participating in a big way in LCA production itself. So as long as you are having this type of expanded capacity within yourself, that is, I'm talking about HAL Bangalore. In addition to that, when you have capability enhanced by the way of subcontracting more and more larger integrated parts, you will increase your capacity more. Maybe after 83, what to do? You don't have any more order, so you cannot infinitely increase and later call that as a loss. So there could be a possibility expanding for the sake of LCA production may not be a viable one. If you look at the advanced, medium combat aircraft, AMCA, we had a proposal and it was almost cleared at that point of time. I could get about 20 acres of land from Sulur Air Base so that both L&T as well as LMW can play a big role in what is called FACO. There is the final assembly and checkout systems. So you can create that. In the case of any of the aircraft development, it takes several years of testing. During that time, we never have one aircraft as a trial piece or a prototype. We generally have nearly 8, 9, 10. So if that is the case, you can start the pilot productions as well as the integration of those systems. While we focus in Bangalore, probably the LCA, that was the intent. In case we do that, we are not calling that place as a production unit as a competitor to LCA, that means HAL. It is only as a substitute during the time of LCA peaking in HAL Bangalore, you can have a Coimbatore or a Sulur as an alternative place wherein you can do this AMCA, the twin engine systems. Idea is to close to the airport, close to the runway, all sorts of facilities, everything existed in Sulur. So it is almost a done case. For some reason, it has not materialized. I don't know. Now the present thinking is, should we have to totally lean on ourselves or should we have to lean on others too? Under that circumstances, how far it is going to go, I do not know. Notwithstanding that, I was keep talking to my colleagues from both the companies as well as to Tamil Nadu government. We should not leave this opportunity and continue to hammer at it, and I'm sure there may be a possibility things can happen in our own way. Assuming that is a least or a lesser probability, what next we can look at it? Transport aircraft manufacture. Telangana, particularly TASL, Tata's group has come in a big way, and they have picked up recently. Of course, there is a long drawn negotiation process for our replacement, C295, Airbus C295. In addition to that, if you go to that area, you will see more than one hangar dedicated exclusively for Boeing, exclusively for Airbus, exclusively for Lockheed Martin. They have already established. Can you replace them overnight? Particularly after the pandemic, when we are talking about 60% of loss in most of the business, be it travel of people, be it the maintenance industry, be it anything, airport connected, anything. There's more than 60% all over the world, and thousands of aircrafts are lined up for getting into the graveyard. Under these circumstances, saying that country like India, starting with one passenger aircraft industry, and that too like a Tata's, having a competition again in Tamil Nadu immediately could be an issue, may or may not be supported. So we'll keep that also aside. But at the same time, company like, I've just given one example because Tamil Nadu has got a lot of industries. There are a lot of fasteners. Today, because OEM specifies as fastener, let us say from their part number, it is continued to be bought as a product, exported and then given with a package in India, which can be probably translated. One example I've taken is fasteners. Maybe Sundaram fasteners, who are experts in automobile fasteners, can probably indulge in. Likewise, we have much more companies in Tamil Nadu exclusively in the airborne fasteners. They are small. I'm assuming you need large volume. Both can flourish and more companies can come. So that area we can enter in, but that is not a big substitute. The other part is UAVs. You know, ADE has worked on Rustam type of aircrafts, and they are needed. We call it MAIL, we call it HAIL. All of them are needed. Unfortunately, in the case of Rustam, we have tied up with HAL and Bharat Electronics right in the inception, because we want a protection agency to handhold exactly like what the DCPP model, what we are talking about. So because they are already there, they have funded it, so changing or handing over or giving something else elsewhere may not be possible. Despite, they are also looking at MAIL now, which is a medium altitude, high endurance aircraft. So I talked to this morning to DG Aero. Why not you look at an industry like you have for HAL and Bell? Why not you look at other industries, particularly we're from Tamil Nadu, where I'll be proud to bring in a number of people. I said, who knows, there is a possibility that we can look at it. Still, this is an inception stage. They need to start the project in DRDO and look at it. In the meantime, HAL also, in their own wisdom, they have also jumped and started moving the papers in Department of Defense Protection for making MAIL also. So there is again uncertainty existing. The last one, the next page, is that let's say manufacture of the projects which I was handling it, called Netra, wherein it is not necessarily a replacement or making a new aircraft, but much more efforts is involved in terms of an aircraft modified to carry a lot of payload, which is what is Air Force is looking at. Why Air Force? Navy, Army, all of them are looking at. None of their aircrafts will have just benign like a passenger traveling. They will have enough number of electronics surrounding that in order to have get intelligence from the neighbors or from wherever it is. In addition to that, if you would like to protect yourself, you may have to have some mechanism by which probably flare and chaff have to be ejected. All these things are not at all possible in a passenger aircraft. It is not allowed. Well, in addition to that, you may have some other payloads which you would like to not necessarily talk about, but like to test it. These modifications is one side. If it is a minor modification, we can take it up ourselves. If it is a major modification, we should probably consult the OEM. Having done that, the electronics for those, in addition to that, fitment, flying, and completely getting it certified is equally a difficult job. Do we have any industry having a multiple sort of knowledge or technologies together to do this type of activities? Do we have? Unfortunately not. So that's a void. So why not we do that? In order to do that, should we have to be alone, form a single company, or would you like to form a multiple company? Okay, my analysis at the end of it, you'll also probably agree that you should have a consortium approach. Why, we'll get into that later. I have taken a specific example because I said Netra is one such a product can be looked upon when it is needed in multiple quantity, because 3 of them are made in the country, designed, developed by DRDO, and it is accepted. Even a Prime Minister visited and seen this, and it is accepted exactly in the air show in 2017 by none other than Parikar, and then the Air Chief was Dhanova, and none other than Air Chief Marshal, today's chief, has flown in that aircraft, and it is done its job in 2019 February. Even in Balakot exercise, it has done a wonderful job. So it is wanted by them. So there is a need. Okay. should we expect the DRDO labs to continue to do that, or should we have to come forward to substitute ourselves as a manufacturing agency? So there is a need in that place. When we look at it, simple top, whatever the antenna goes on, if you talk of antenna, it is supposed to be radiating a microwave energy to see that it gets an advantage in terms of spatial or directional property, as well as to carry the power that is to be handled without rejecting it or refusing to let it go, or while accepting, it should be in a position to accept the energy from elsewhere, reflected coming, and nicely should give it to the rest of the receiver to adapt it. So that antenna itself, today it is getting into what is called TR module based or active array. That means you don't have a separate transmitter, you have the antenna back itself acts like a power source as well as the receiver. So virtually 60 to 70% of the radar is embedded within that particular antenna itself, that is called active array antenna. What are the technologies needed? You have a number of items that's after all flying on the top, and it is almost 1/3 the size of the aircraft itself. So the certification, whatever as the aircraft has gone through, has gone fut the moment you try to put this on top. You have to make a major modification in the aircraft to carry that. Yes, that you can go back to the aircraft manufacturer or OEM to get that modification done. But the unit, antenna itself, being a defense connected, why should it be done by somebody else? It is already fortunately done in the country by DRDO lab, none other than Center for Airborne Systems in Bangalore. Now in case we have to produce it in large quantities, you cannot be saying that you give me the drawing, I'll blindly make it. You have to have a knowledge. That is essential. What are the knowledge? It is a structure, and it has a aerospace structure, so it has to have required mechanical strength. So you need good amount of knowledge on the strength and stability. And aerospace, being an aerospace, it has to be streamlined. So lots of analysis has been done. And we must be able to at least understand and grasp that. You cannot be blind to say, okay, ask me to put a bolt, I put it, and later on if it is not working, I don't know. We cannot say that. So we have to have knowledge on that. And being electronics and electromagnetics, it is electrical because transmitters removed means huge amount of power is going. We have translated the power, what is coming normally 28 volts. We got the generator for this at a higher voltage of 200 volts AC generated, converted into DC again at a higher voltage. We carry it through the cables, because if you carry the higher current, the arc and probable possibility of fire accidents are more high. So we have to bring it down the current carrying capacity or current flowing, but the voltage can be higher. We did that, which is not a conventional any other aircraft has got. So we did that. Then we convert back to the lower voltage. While you are doing this up conversion and down conversion, losses are to be maintained, so efficiency to be kept in mind, the cooling to be done. Above all, the cooling in this case particularly, we don't have any water cooling or liquid cooling. We have to see that the air that goes as your aircraft is flying is utilized efficiently to cool rest of the system's electronics. Very sensitive electronics at a risk of air coming or not coming. Particularly imagine if the aircraft goes through a CAT, that means clear air turbulence. You will have a vacuum for a while, and during that time it should sustain. So all those studies we have to do. In addition to that, which is generally not for any antenna, we don't worry at all. The bird strike, in addition to that, let's say lightning, there are umpteen number of varieties of worries are there. Last but not the least is electromagnetics. That is how the design is done. So we have to have a consortium or a group of companies who have got various capabilities. Otherwise, you can have a big companies, let's say, like there are some companies are there like a Lockheed Martin, the bigger ones, where you have engineers from all aspects. And we cannot have all of them bought overnight and train them and be an expert in all these areas. So the consortium approach is like-minded, varieties of expertise and technology. People, when they join together, there is a possibility that we can take up work like this. The antenna, what I was talking, is mechanically a structure like this. It has to go through vibration and so many other things. The blown up structure or in the remote structure has got various layers, including electromagnetically transparent, at the same time mechanically strengthened, radome, followed by the small slots or holes in a mechanical aluminum sheet, which acts like a radiator or radiating element, followed by the electronics, which is really generating the power. All of them are there. You see, they're all connected through a number of cables, nearly about 2 kilometers of cable within a short span of the things there. There could be a loose connection, radiation, emission, EMI, MC. So many of them we need to study. The thermal is one of the very, very major exercise. Enormous amount of study has to be done. While it is translated, even if a TOT is given, the person who is accepting and doing should have a knowledge. That's why we have to have the companies have involved and worked should together. Internally, if you look at it, ergonomics, there is a space limitation. It's not a very big aircraft. It's a 50-seater aircraft. Within that, we have to have a 5 console, followed by some galley, followed by some rest crew seats. Because the fuel is not sufficient, we have to have an external, in addition to the internal fuel tanks, to see that you get a range what you want. Ultimately, the space should look comfortable. Then there are innumerable amount of antennas existing. It should have two aspects. It can have probably a higher way of affecting the the aircraft performance itself. That means safety. So we have to have equally important studies to be done. And otherwise, we will blindly do something which might be of very, very dangerous to that. Including, if you know Wirtstein, Westinghouse is the radar developer for the AWACS of US, and they have done mistake when they did recently, in the sense the Wirtstein, when it was made. After all the things are completed, when they did the trial, the antenna position with respect to the body of the aircraft was kept in such a way that it had more of reflections, and they could not tolerate that, they could not survive with that. So they have to increase the height. Then it went through a complete process of certification. So there are so many things we can make mistake even in production. Finally, the project has to be succeeded by a complete structural testing, and somebody from abroad will see it and they will inspect it. We have to go through that, then only they'll put on the aircraft. Icing is another important thing. We may assume that there is no problem at all, and I was told that China, they lost an aircraft similar to that because icing was not consideration. We also started without it, then we included it. So how do? We have to take care of it. Simple thing is, you can use the power to heat up, but then you are consuming all your power, whatever you are having it. So your endurance may come down by half an hour or 1 hour. Instead, what we use is the bleed. From the engine itself, we use the bleed to see that the ice is broken rather than taken. So this is also giving an example of how the lightning test is carried out. We are very much how to protect the electronics, but we are putting it on the top. And likewise, this is a bird strike test has to be done, which is again not all needed. Ultimately, we come down to the antenna pattern and measurement, and we do that. Even within DRDO, it is not a single lab contribution. Many labs have done it. So the lesson learned are, you can do this project like Netra by Tamil Nadu Corridor, provided we have a system of group of people joined together and we work on it. It is essential that we have a support of both MOD and Tamil Nadu. In conclusion, I say Netra or AWNC project is a unique and possible in Tamil Nadu Defense Corridor. Only a consortium of companies can execute this project. IAF, DRDO, hand-holding is essential with a TOT. Tamil Nadu government, through TIDCO, should be a partner of our consortium, then only will succeed. Thank you. Jai Hind, Nandri.
Thank you, sir. May I request our next speaker, Mr. Vikram Reddy, Executive General Manager, GE Aviation, India, to share his thoughts on engine development and manufacturing, TNDIC, to the fore, please. Mr. Vikram Reddy.
Can we have the slides, please? Good afternoon, everyone, and eminent speakers on the dais. The prior speakers have really, set it up. The talk by talk on the skill in India and the talk on the public-private partnership and the Tamil Nadu infrastructure has really been a good insight for us to understand how do we go from here. Now I present to you here a perspective from working for an MNC. So I work for GE Aviation, and what we can do as an ecosystem. Like Dr. Christopher was suggesting, it doesn't happen by any one of us alone, but if we can create a consortium and ecosystem, we can make it happen. So before I get to that part of it, I will introduce what we do in India, then we will go to the possibilities and some of the work that we have done with TIDCO, and Mr. Langovan has been a big partner with us, working with us on a potential partnership that we can make it happen. So what we do in India is 2 decades of very rich aviation product design analysis foundation. And we have been reminded on the importance of building the foundational skill. Working in aviation industry for more than 20 years, I can tell that it's an industry which is where we learn by what I call as trial by fire. So it has been 20 years of working, developing foundation, starting with learning basics. Now I'm very, very proud to say that we have 1,000 engineers working out of Bangalore, sir, who are very firmly founded in aerospace industry, and I can say that with confidence after I'm trying to work the slides here, just give me. Okay, so, okay. So, brief introduction of GE Aviation. It doesn't need introduction, but GE Aviation was one of the big OEMs, and we supply jet engines. We are in all major commercial and military platforms. It's a legacy of 100 years. We celebrated 100 years of being in aerospace last year. It's a privilege for us to be the service provider for many militaries, including our defense forces here in India. A little bit about India campus. We have a state-of-art facility right here in Bangalore. We are situated in Whitefield. We have close to 6,000 engineers in the campus working for GE, of which 1,000 are working for aviation. Like I said, we have worked here for 20 years, and very proud to develop this niche set of engineering talent that is very experienced in various aspects of development of the aircraft engine. Right from starting at the early phase of the engine design to introducing new products to servicing the products that are in the field, these engineers have wide-ranging experience. We have spent close to 220 million so far in establishing not just an engineering workforce and computational capacity. We have more than 100 labs in the campus that help us do advanced research and keep up with the technology innovation that the industry needs. Aviation team filed close to 300 patents by the engineers here, and I can state that some of the wide-body aircraft, when you fly a Boeing 777 or Airbus 380, it's usually powered by GE engines. More than 60 to 70% of the work, complete work for that engines, from designing, developing, and handling it in the field, is done out of the Bangalore center. So I'll switch now to a little bit more about what are the technology trends, having talked a little bit about the foundation that we have done here. So we see the technology for the next 10, 15 years to be in various domains, and I'm presenting you more of commercial aviation picture. We have military aviation part of our business. So this is, my talk today will more focus on the commercial side of it. So when we look at next generation of aircraft, if you look at 2030 plus, the main theme of that generation would be sustainability. And so we have to look at next generation technologies that will take us to more energy efficient, more cleaner in terms of emissions around the world. The climate change is driving a lot of expectations from all industries, including aviation industries, on what is the technology that can bring down the emissions, that can make the engines more efficient, burn lesser fuel. That's on the next generation. And in the current engines that we have in the fleet, there is a lot of technology that we need to develop around services. How we can use this advanced concepts of robotics, inspection technologies, how we can use data sciences to understand the parameters that the engine is giving out to us, and to be able to do the field health monitoring on a continuous basis. The future belongs to advanced manufacturing. This is where we are working very closely with Tamil Nadu government, and I'm proud to say that we have made a lot of progress on that front. Some of you might have read that we have certified 3D printed parts in our commercial engines even as we speak now. We want to take that journey forward. Advanced manufacturing, especially 3D printing, offers a great flexibility for us as engineers to be able to do complex parts but not add cost. Usually manufacturing, as an engineer, if you add design complexity, it directly leads to increase in the cost. 3D printing is a way to circumvent that aspect, and we are able to leverage that. It's early days in this journey. There is a lot of potential on this front that we see working with governments and ecosystems around the world to be able to scale up this. Even as I said, we have introduced certified aviation parts. This is like starting of the curve. We see the mountain coming, and India is positioned well with the right policy making, with the R&D partnerships, with the foundation of the human skill that we have developed. We should be able to embrace this acceleration of this industry and be a big part of it. And I am very sure Tamil Nadu, being the progressive state that it is, it will play a big role in that. And digital technologies have talked about. There is a lot of focus around using the data that the sensors that engines give us. You see this across the industry, and there is a very clear advantage of treating every engine as a unique entity, not as as similar one. If you fly the engine in a hot environment like Middle East, Dubai versus North America versus India, it behaves differently. Data coming from these engines teach us that, and we are able to become smarter. So I've talked a little bit about these future technologies. The propulsion efficiencies have consistently been improving over decades. This decade will be no different. We take the challenge of developing the next generation jet engine technology that will make us efficient in emissions and the fuel burn that we can use. Again, advanced manufacturing, that's the LEAP fuel nozzle. The LEAP is one of our engine that powers the A320neo and Boeing 737 MAX. You can see that it looks pretty simple from outside, but if you cut open that fuel nozzle, it has very intricate fuel and air passages that need to get the fuel into the combustor system in a most efficient way. So 3D printing has been able to help us do those complicated designs without adding much cost. So one of our turboprop engines has more significant usage of the advanced manufacturing. But like I said, this is the beginning of the cycle. We have a long way to go in terms of leveraging this technology for the future aircraft. So what do we do in India other than doing fantastic work for the GE products? we have partnerships with various institutes. You can see a big list there. And I can, given this forum of Tamil Nadu State, I can call out our special relationship with IIT Madras. We have been partners with IIT Madras, sir, for a long time now, working with combustion research, working with our starter motors. Fantastic facility. I am an alumni of IIT Madras, very proudly so. These partnerships have helped us co-invent some of the technology. This is a feature of wherever we work around the world. We look at where else can we go and partner with, either because of the reasons of talent, reasons of infrastructure, sometimes reasons of getting to co-fund it. The research is so much to do, and none of us have the resources to do everything that we want to do. But when we can share the talent, when we can share the infrastructure, all of us can make 1 + 1 = 3. So that's where the partners come into picture. So we envision this to mature, our partnerships. Some of the parts of the world like Europe and US have more established systems to be able to do it. We are at the early cycle of that, but I think we are making progress. Many governments are now coming up with policy of R&D framework for private industries to partner with government industries and universities. We think this model, like Dr. Christopher also was talking about ecosystem, this model of developing an ecosystem where R&D organizations, governments, and the OEMs, universities, everybody comes together, plays to their own strengths, and the results of it is R&D and IP. There is tremendous value in investing in very advanced stage, very early stages of technology development as we experience it around the world. We are fully wanting that to happen in India. We want to play our role as an OEM in India to support very, very early R&D development and technology, which in turn develops IP and it disseminates to MSMEs and companies thereafter, triggering its own ecosystem. And the talk by Mr. Ilangovan has alluded to the ecosystem development of a number of companies and revenues coming out of aerospace industry in future. We think this is the model to be able to do it. And potential benefit story, like I said, that the IP generated, the knowledge that is generated can get across to small companies, universities, big OEMs, and government playing the role of supporting this thriving ecosystem is how we envision it. And we are in pretty advanced stage of discussion with TIDCO, and thanks for their support so far in talking to us. We hope to break these barriers and take this path forward of enriching the ecosystem and bring the benefits to our country as well as all of the entities that we are part of, whether it's a private entity or university or a government ecosystem. So with that, I will conclude my talk today, and thanks for the opportunity and being able to be here in this forum.
Thank you, sir. Our next topic of the session is Tamil Nadu A&D ecosystem, the L&T experience. May I request Mr. Lakshmesh, BH, Head Missiles and Aerospace Business, L&T Defense, to address the gathering, please. Mr. Lakshmesh.
Good evening, everyone. And it's an honor to be on this dais with eminent people here. Dr. Christopher, Dr. Dave, my friend Reddy Garu, and of course, Mr. Ilangovan. Larsen & Toubro, L&T Defense is India's largest private defense and aerospace company. much, much bigger than the nearest second. And it has its facilities and design centers total in excess of 13 across multiple states. There are 2 in Gujarat, Hazira and Baroda, 2 facilities in Maharashtra, Mumbai and Talegaon, 1 facility in Karnataka, that is in Bangalore, 1 in Andhra Pradesh at Vizag, but 3 in Tamil Nadu. And I'm also, sir, to share with you, 2 of the facilities which are in other states are being moved and consolidated into Tamil Nadu, which makes for L&T Defense, Tamil Nadu having 5 dedicated entities in the field of defense and aerospace. The 3 which specifically right now are, we have a precision manufacturing and systems complex at Coimbatore. We have a joint venture with one of the world majors in missiles, which is MBDA, and we have a joint venture with them, and that's also located in Coimbatore. And we have the L&T shipbuilding facilities at Ennore. And incidentally, very fortunate for us, we have someone with us today, sitting here, who has been instrumental in every one of this, and also currently heads he's on the board of L&T MBD. We have Commodore Mukesh Bhargav here, who has been instrumental in all these 3. Thank you very much for being here, sir. So among these 3 facilities, as of now, over the last about 12 to 15 years, we have been able to develop more than 500 partners, most of them within Tamil Nadu. All of this didn't exist. We have been able to bring in a lot of new technologies, especially in the field of aeronautics, aerospace. And we've been able to build enormous big teams. All of this didn't exist. You know, Dr. Christopher, you mentioned about Tamil Nadu not having any, government establishment, whether it's a DRDO or a DPSU. I think we have been able to do a good part of what's not been there. I would like to spend a little bit more time specific to the Coimbatore operations, which is mainly dealing with missiles and aerospace. We kind of established the initial facility early 2008 to 2012, and then kind of started getting into missile subsystem manufacturing, practically about 17, 18 different missiles. Every missile in the country today has some major component from L&T, and that goes from Coimbatore. We have hit a rate of almost 2 to 3 missiles per day for a steady period of about 3 to 4 years. I mean, that was during the peak time around 2015-16. While that has become now a steady state, the facility is now getting into bigger entities in terms of space and aeronautics. I'm glad to share that all of you might have seen the LCA flying around there. I don't know whether it is this particular vehicle. We have given the wings for the LCA, and that have flown out of the Coimbatore operations. The PSLVs and GSLVs, which keep creating those glorious moments for the country, very important subsystems, the solid stage and interstages go out of Coimbatore now. And moving forward, we are getting into a system integrator role in terms of launch vehicles and unmanned aerial vehicles. So during this journey of last 10, 12 years and what we look forward for the next 10 years, we've been going through the step of establishing our own infrastructure, building ecosystem, and then nurturing the cluster. Because it's very important, the collaboration and the cluster which all of you mentioned about, and consortium approach which Dr. Christopher mentioned about. Growth cannot happen. I alone am nobody. It has to be collaborative, it has to be consortium approach. We need to bring strengths together. Only then we can go up to level of system level playing. And which is what the ambition that we have. In the event of doing this over the last 10 years, what is the kind of ecosystem that we have been able to build over the last decade? Now, as this one particular entity operates in the domain of missiles and aerospace, we've been able to bring a lot of domestic and global customers. They may not be from, none of them are from Tamil Nadu, but we serve each one of them from the state of Tamil Nadu. In the domain of missiles, practically every missile house in the country and the major missile operators across the world. Unmanned aerial vehicles, all of that mostly located in Karnataka and also global. All of them are served from Tamil Nadu. Space, of course, we did mention about ISRO's VSSE, LPSC, both in case of solid stage, liquid stage, and interstages. We've been able to develop enormous amount of partners. We have tied up with more than 20 plus academic institutes and engagement with them in very different way. Industrial associations. So what I feel is when we talk about an ecosystem must have all these elements, plus government, plus society. When all of these six come together, then we create a solid ecosystem. We have Mr. Elongo mentioning about the efforts of the Tamil Nadu government, especially in the last couple of years, if I could say so, in the domain of defense and aerospace. Otherwise, technically, defense and aerospace wasn't really on the radar of Tamil Nadu. And I'm really very thankful to the government, especially when it came out in 2019, 2018, to come out with a policy for defense and aerospace. And I think if that is the level of the push which comes from the Tamil Nadu state government, I'm sure, like how other industries have matured, I'm sure these too will in the state. Now, specifically to building the partnership model, I've just added a small graphical information. When we started, we had a lot of partners who were genuinely mini and micro in terms of their turnovers. And as we grew, they also grew. In fact, there were lots of people who were less than 1 crore, 2 crore per year. And today, most of them are 30 to 50 crores per year, working mainly with us. Which means, I repeat what I said earlier, I alone am nobody, and we believe in building ecosystems wherever we go. And the Tamil Nadu ecosystem in terms of partners, suppliers, has been quite a fruitful one for us in this domain of defense and aerospace. And we have grown together. What we see in the next decade. Now, if you look at the reforms that are coming in both at at all levels, the embargo, import embargo on the defense and aerospace product, there are a lot of them which can be an important pick, which can be taken up. Dr. Christopher mentioned about some of them. It can be completely handled, managed from within the state. In terms of the DPEPP, you see that there are also lots of other programs which can bring in the Atmanirbhar from the state. This is for the takes, and probably every state in the country would be gunning for these. The new space policy, which is opening up the space to the sector, is again a major change in the governmental thinking, and I'm sure that would also be a great domain for Tamil Nadu to look into. Each of these three new initiatives by the central government has to be tapped into by the state, again, as a consortium of government, large industries, small industries, academia, and the various industry associations like what we are having today. So one of the things which I thought is, as an ecosystem which has been over the last decade mainly operating at a particular level, if we need to, as an ecosystem, as a consortium, move towards these kinds of programs, what kind of transformation that we need to bring into ourselves? A lot of this is happening, but I thought I'll just quickly consolidate that into, as I said, there are about 4 or 5 major players in the ecosystem, government being the most important one, especially in the domain of defense and aerospace, because the buyer is government. So having been more supportive in establishing and operations, the government, which of course Mr. Elango did mention about bringing this major transformation, taking on the role from being a supportive load to a promoting provider and an incentive way. The A&D policy is one such thing. I think it's going to be very important to see how this policy is going to get implemented in its absolute true spirit. Establishing technology and incubation development centers, establishing test facilities. He did mention about the UAV test facility of 30-kilometer radius. I would really love if it is scaled to 60-kilometer radius, because that is when you would cover a lot more other programs. Otherwise, 30-kilometer radius is for only small, mini, small, and micro UAVs. Larger players like us, we need to move up from being a subsystem and a tier 1 level player into a system level player. I'm glad to share that one of the initiatives that we ourselves have taken is establishing a dedicated aerospace product and technology development center. It's a completely R&D center, again located very much at Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. So moving up from a subsystem and a tier 1 role to a system integrator, system assembly, system testing, and system validation role. Once we do that, the suppliers, the next level suppliers, will be able to scale up to the levels of tier 1 and tier 2. And very important thing, our experience over the last decade is Tamil Nadu has enormous amount of value chain, supply chain partners in the critical component manufacturing, driven by the automotive and the precision textile machineries and such electrical businesses. It is important that how this industry, the MSME, is able to absorb and transform themselves into the defense and aerospace culture. It's very different. We have seen it, experienced it over the last 10 years, and we have taken a lot of efforts in those people, those 400 to 500 companies who are associated with us, to start by bringing about this cultural change, very essential. And of course, very important today is the industry is at one level. It is either at a tier 2 level or a tier 3 level. It is important that the industry aligns into a tierized structure with a system, a big level OEM or a system integrator at the top of the pyramid. If this industry has to grow in a consortium model, it has to be in this pyramid structure. And this is where I would request industrial associations like this to kind of promote and implement and influence the formation of this kind of a tierized structure. Academic institutes, a lot of them have been able to develop, he mentioned about 70 engineering colleges, but General Subramanian mentioned about this lacking of the skill. So from being just a talent and a skill and a research institutes, it is important that academia should get into co-development, technology development centers, especially in the defense electronics, defense software, defense validation entities. This is a major transformation which I would like to see in the academic institutes coming up. Industrial associations, we have many of them well established now. They have done a wonderful job, I must say, in bringing together, grouping various industries at various levels, grouping, influencing, channelizing a lot of information. Today there are a lot of information that gets flown to various people in the state. And they've also been able to influence the governments. It is important now that these associations scale up from here into representing the industry as a consortium at much higher level and then gunning for those big programs. So I'm sure Tamil Nadu has enormous potential, having demonstrated in other industry domains. A&D is also something which Tamil Nadu can focus on. As a large organization, L&T is very much at the heart of it. We are at the two nodal points, Chennai and Coimbatore, and certainly would like to be a big role player and do everything in growing this sector in the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. N.P. Sridhar will not be able to join us for the session. So may I request you all that if any question is there, the floor is open. So it's a Q&A session.
If there are any questions, kindly you can floor it now and we would respond to it. But I think most of you are from Tamil Nadu and we have very few here and you already have most of the answers. But if there are any specific questions, kindly you could put it across to us now. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Sir, I am from Dinagaran. What is your expectation from the defense corridor, other investment, sir?
Actually, from the state's perspective, if you're looking at, there are two questions I think in the question. There is one is the investments and other the expectation. If it is investments, actually there is a large group of MSMEs which actually form the core of the development that is taking place in the state. And if there are investments coming in, actually these investments, if they are initially focused for the MSMEs, if this can be enabling investments for these MSMEs, that would actually be the first priority for development, because once the foundation is strengthened, all of the larger operating companies can actually grow from there. In terms of expectation from the state, we definitely look at larger companies to come and operate and make use of the existing infrastructure. I think the speakers have all brought out the strength of the state. They have mentioned about the academic capabilities. They have also mentioned about the ecosystem which is there. There is a large base which is available. And if the larger companies from the global arena could actually move to these locations and make use of them, they do not have to invest millions of dollars in technical infrastructure, which is already there. The redevelopment and the structuring, like what Mr. Lakshmesh actually explained, the structure has to be organized, that is being undertaken by the companies which are here and especially the MSMEs. Yes, the expectation is for the larger companies to come in and make use of what we have in Tamil Nadu. And also when we look at investments could come into strengthening existing organizations rather than coming and creating competing infrastructure. That is what I would say that could be the expectation from the state. Yeah, if there are any other questions, otherwise we could move on to conclude on this.
Now may I request Dr. Dave for closing remark and to propose vote of thanks, please. Dr. Dave.
Thank you. I think we have heard enough from all of the eminent speakers about the capabilities of the state and what we could expect from then on. Actually, we do recognize that Tamil Nadu is emerging as a hub for aerospace. However, there are some challenges which are known to all of us. Defense being a very peculiar industry, we have one specific deficiency: the ability for the industry to predict demand. So for most industries, the major challenge is how do you plan when you cannot predict demand? So this is an area that the Government of India, especially from the industry perspective, both from the Ministry of MSMEs and from the Ministry of Heavy Industries, we've been debating this as an issue for developing that. So one of the things that has been suggested is that we don't build industries which actually completely depend on one sector, that is the defense sector. Defense sector could feed probably a very large company, providing they actually assign about 30 to 40% of their infrastructure for that dedicated service instead of running 100% of their service capability. So in Tamil Nadu, because we have a very good mix of other industries, including automotive and electronics, we would be able to offer the biggest advantage of setting aside infrastructure and setting aside capabilities which can support the growth of the defense sector. So that is one of the major advantages of Tamil Nadu. We are not creating infrastructure specifically for defense. We are creating a general ecosystem of engineering and industry which can support the growth of the defense sector and the aerospace sector. I think Mr. Lakshmesh had mentioned one of the larger opportunities which are there, which is L&T Defense, have been systematically growing the base, which is systematically growing the ecosystem. I would call it as the MSME ecosystem. And this has helped many of these smaller companies to operate in other sectors as well because of the expertise that has come in. They have been refined, operating procedures have been actually improved, they have started following systems. So now we have these disciplines coming into the MSMEs, which is actually helping the state. So in essence, Tamil Nadu would eventually emerge, it is emerging as a hub for aerospace, would emerge as a powerful hub for these sectors of operation. So with these words, I would like to thank all of you for having patiently sat through this in spite of your other engagements around the venue. Thanks to the speakers, thank you very much, and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of the seminar on Tamil Nadu, the emerging hub for aerospace and defense industry. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much for joining the session. Jai Hind.